The Minister for Works came up on the national TV and said that with the history of the River Niger dated 100 years back. Where did he get his data from? That the River Niger has overflowed. Flooded 100 years back. And it is the same ministry they gave like 1.2 billion naira for. And Ministry of Environment that decided with the bigger task was giving just 300 something million. So maybe the way the
priorities right.
Yeah, maybe we are not getting it. What I expect the president, I'm seeing that something is lacking with the president's kitchen cabinet or his cabinet. I'm not seeing an advisor.
Do you also think that is also because, the ministry is not saying loudly or articulating clearly enough what it needs more funds for? Is it not how you present your case?
No. In fact, I support you totally. If the minister could come up and say, Mr. President, I have a serious problem. Now, first thing I want to do is to carry out post-impact assessment study of this problem we have on the ground.
Post-impact, can that be done while the flood?
No,
after the flood of the water recedes. Okay.
They should try and maybe be dusting their table now. Look at the previous study that have been carried out, and NIWA said they've carried out some EMP, Environmental Management Plan, of River Niger. What are the data? When last did they even have the river routing of River Niger? And to know the extent of current that is coming before the flood and after the flood and during the flood. We need all this data.
Mr. Salawu, how would you describe our experience in handling floods? I mean, it seems like this is the first time some of us in our lifetime are
It's more or less we are overwhelmed, totally overwhelmed.
Of this magnitude.
You see, another thing I want to say, you see, right on this channel, we keep saying what is the ecological fund meant for. And you can see what the ecological fund is meant for. Because if the president has to wait for us to appropriate fund, this palliative measure that we are now supporting this, we won't be able to achieve it. So the money that he released was from the ecological fund. And
but he didn't say so.
Yeah, no. There is nowhere the president can take that money. It's from the ecological fund. By law, that's the only place he can take that money for
this purpose.
Yes. And that's why the money is domiciled in. But I have an advice.
But you're saying that money was going to go and, alleviate the sufferings of those who suffer the impact.
Yes, under emergency.
It's not to take care of the environment per se.
How much is 500 million when it comes to infrastructure, shoreline protection?
Isn't that what the ecological fund is meant for?
No. Let me give you an example of what I mean. It's emergency. NEMA, under its statutory allocation, NEMA can have access to ecological fund. NEMA is one of the agencies of federal government that have access to ecological fund. So they can say through NEMA, they are disbursing that money. Now, that money is to serve as a kind of preparatory fund to carry out bigger projects. Because what I expect each state to do now is to set up a technical committee that will now look at the effect, socio-economic effect, health impact, environmental impact of the flood that we're talking about. Now, if they now do that, they can now access bigger fund. Because from that money, they will say they don't have money to carry out study. They can take a little percentage of that money and get a reputable environmental consultant or consultancy firm, like the New Orleans zone. When it happened 5 years ago, the consortium of 3 companies came up and carried out the design of the flood wall that was constructed in New Orleans. So, and that reduces the present hurricane to storm this year, and they put that into test. And this concept, it's not even only the American company that did it. It was after their own study, then the American Corps of Engineers, Army Corps of Engineers now came in and assisted in the construction of the flood gauge. How many cities in Nigeria has flood gauge? How many cities in Nigeria have flood wall?
But the question is, how many cities in Nigeria have experienced this kind of floods before now?
But we have history of flooding dated, in fact, the River Niger flooding dated back 1939. 1939.
So the minister is almost correct.
Almost, yes, in 1939. But none of us were available. In terms of dredging of River Niger, River Niger dated, maybe what I mean by dredging of River Niger, government attempt to dredge River Niger, 1958. Then 76, then 1996, they were trying to dredge River Niger. But the information about overflowing its banks, with villagers coming up with information, but don't forget that infrastructure development has not reached this particular level we have. So they will not even be able to know the level of flooding that has happened. That's where I'm going by saying, where did the Minister of Work get his data that they have experienced the highest, because the river was just being dredged 2.5 meters down. And the amount of water we have is close to 10 to 12 meters high. And so where do you want the excess to go?
So if they had that information at the time, they should tell us how it was dredged, what they did, how can we deploy it. In
fact, after the dredging, what do you want to do with the embankment? The shoreline protection. Okay, maybe, well, I give you an example of the Asa River in Ilorin. The river, every year it flows, it overflows its banks. And the federal government carried out the consultancy's job that they should dredge the river, the Asa River, as far back as 5 years ago. The consultant, the project had been approved 3 months ago. Consultant is here to move to site. And what do they want to do? Which is very nice scope. They want to widen the Asa River 40 meters. And they want to put an embankment 4 meters high. And it will cover 2.3 kilometers. That's a good one. Let each state now go to the bank of their river, Kogi, Edo, all this, and carry out study that will determine the height of the embankment, that if the river have shown us, given us data now, it has overflow up to 10 meters, then we can say, okay, we'll do the first embankment of 5 meters, and we will cover maybe a kilometer of 50 meters now, and later we move forward.